now you decide you want to go to graduate school and you got to do the applications. One key thing is that you actually have to find people to write recommendations for your graduate school applications. Writing recommendations for someone's graduate school application is a very fascinating process. And I know that because being a recipient of a recommendation and also being the writer of a recommendation, it all depends on who the student is, and your relationship with your recommendation writer will define how smooth or not so smooth this process can be. The first thing is deciding who would you like to be your recommendation writer. When I was applying, typically across applications, I would need 3 to 4 recommendation writers. So I came up with a list of 3 to 5 professors and instructors. So whether it's a tenure professor, or like a full professor, or associate professor, or it was a teaching assistant, like a grad student instructor with whom I had a solid relationship with, it was based on not just how well I did in the class, it was more so based on how was my relationship with this instructor. Did they actually know me beyond just the assignments that they graded for me? Anytime I went to office hours, was it a positive experience? Did they see that I was trying in their course? Did we also have more conversations beyond just schoolwork in a productive professional development way, in a way of, hey, here's what I'm doing in, you know, my coursework all in all. It's not just about your course, but I'm actually thinking about career trajectory in this specific field. Do you know anybody that can point me in the right direction to do X, Y, and Z? Has this potential recommendation writer been a resource to you? Have you been a resource to them? So choosing recommendation writers is really important. And it's funny because I remember when I was in that mode of finding people to write recommendations for my applications, there were a lot of factors that I was considering. And one of the top key factors previously mentioned was, how's my relationship with this person? Like just person to person, whether they're instructor, professor, what have you. And then I also thought about, would this person even write well on my behalf? Because just because you ask somebody to write your recommendation, they can say sure, they can say yes, but that don't mean the recommendation is going to be good. And I remember there was a professor who said, y'all, when you are asking people to write a recommendation, just because they say yes, that does not mean the recommendation is going to be good. Sometimes professors or whoever's writing a recommendation, they could also easily say, yeah, I actually don't recommend this student for grad school. And these are the reasons why. So understand that just because you ask somebody to do something, that doesn't mean they're going to do it the way you think they're going to do it. And that's not out of malice, that's not out of them trying to sabotage you, but that's just being real. Across application processes for any given program, for any given university or graduate school situation, they may have a couple different ways to gain feedback from recommendation writers. It's not always just the recommendation writer has to write just a 3 paragraph or 1 page document about how well you may do in grad school. The portal may have additional questions. They may have like Likert scales where it's saying how likely or how well is this student um, potentially going to be at X, Y, and Z skill or task. And I remember filling out as a recommendation writer for one of my former students. And I'm not going to name the school, but when I saw, oh, wait, they have additional questions here. And they're asking situational and behavioral, um, they're asking about situational and behavioral tendencies or things that, as an instructor or as a recommendation writer, that I would notice or that I would see as someone who's closer to them than, the graduate school review panel that's going to be looking at their application. They're asking me as a recommendation writer, how well do you think this person will be able to do X, Y, and Z for real? And I remember there were some questions where I just couldn't answer. I just put not applicable, or I can't answer that question with a concrete response because I just haven't seen this person in that light. I haven't seen them in the situation where they may have to respond or do X, Y, and Z. So it's very crucial when you're choosing people as a recommendation writer, potentially, you consider how well does this recommendation writer know me? Like how much have they seen of my dynamic personality? How much have they seen of me as not just a student, but also as a volunteer uh, activist? Or do they know about my hobby as a bass guitarist and I play in the school jazz band and I also do X, Y, and Z to show that I'm an involved campus member and it's not just about did I get an A in their class? Because when you think about it, in grad school, yes, there's the academic work, but there's so much more to life than just papers and assignments and labs and writing your thesis. Like there's so much more to it. So when grad school review panels or people who are reading applications are considering candidates for their program, they want to see people that are involved. They want to see holistic candidates where they do things just beyond coursework, and it's a helpful consideration for you as a person seeking people to write your recommendations. To if they don't know now, to still share that with them when you do ask them. And one thing that I did, and this is through with the help of the McNair Scholars Program, I'm a McNair Scholar. I created an application, a graduate school application packet as a as an holistic aid for anybody that was asking to write me a recommendation. So it's actually a really decently sized document where it's very spelled out. Like it includes my statement of purpose, my it's called statement of purpose, and then there's like the interest statement. I'm blanking on the exact term for it, but like there were two specific written documents that I remember having to write. Where the statement of purpose is what is it that I would like to study, and specifically what is my career trajectory, what do I hope to do through grad school, and then I believe it was like the interest statement where I was asked to explain why I was interested in this specific program. So I included both of those written documents. I included my CV, my curriculum vitae or curriculum vitae, however people want to pronounce it. And then I also included all of the schools to which I was applying, all of their application deadlines, links to the actual program website so people could get more insight about the programs and they could see my full scope of my grad school application journey. I included specific links to here are the portals that you'll have to interact with as a recommendation writer. I included a whole bunch of other stuff. Anything that was going to help somebody get the clearest view of who I was, not just as a student, but as a human being, I gave that in a very succinct but comprehensive packet of information. And everything included the fake deadline, as in the the due date for when I would love the recommendation letter to be completed by, or the recommendation to be completed for my own timeline. And that was separate from the actual deadline, the actual due date, where if you don't submit the thing by this date, then your application is going to be considered incomplete and then you can't do nothing at all. So, considering the timeline with the people who I am asking to write my recommendation, punctuality, how likely do you think this person who's going to be writing recommendation will be able to give you your materials in a timely manner? Will they be able to get it to you before the due date, before the fake due date or the real due date? Is this a reliable person? Because just because you connect with a professor who's great, they have all these accolades, and you really enjoy that class, you did well in that class, are they actually going to get your stuff to you on time? Will they consider your application a priority? Because if they don't consider it a priority and they don't get it done in time, then your application is shot. Which means be careful. Like, be very careful, be very considerate of other people's time. Please don't put up to somebody asking for a recommendation 2 weeks before the deadline. That's disrespectful. Just straight up and down. Like, that is disrespectful because you're not respecting the professor's time, and you're also being selfish in that because they're busy just like you're busy. Ideally, even if you do have a close relationship with the person that you're asking for recommendation, that 2 week turnaround is really tight. And if you really want to do it in a proper way with a lower sense of pressure, reach out to your professors or your instructors. Give them a 2 to 3 month runway, a 2 to 3 month runway, because the last thing you want is to be rushing in anything regarding the graduate school application process. And then there's another thing when you're rushing somebody else to get something back to you, because just as a concept, I forget where I heard it, but someone said your lack of preparation does not mean urgent for me. Just because you need something done quick, fast, and in a hurry because you're late, that doesn't mean that all of a sudden I have to drop everything that I'm doing because you didn't prepare properly. Now, that looks different or across various contexts. But in this context, you're reaching out to a professor a week before the deadline for your graduate school application where your recommendations need to be submitted. And because you didn't prepare properly, then it becomes an urgent matter for the professor. Nah, that's not how that works. That is not how that works. Another key thing that I remember, people actually really responded well to my packet because it conveyed preparation. It communicated, oh, this student is serious about this whole application process, and they're very organized. So that translates very well, even in the recommendation writing itself. Like, that's a good impression, especially for someone who, even if they were my instructor for a semester or 2 semesters, it conveys they're on top of their stuff. So I want to meet them where they are. I want to make sure that I'm reflecting their energy in the most ideal situation. Being prepared means the recommendation writer will help you as much as they possibly can. across the people that I asked for recommendations, all of them, I had a list of five. I only needed three recommendations maximum across the five schools that I applied to. And I applied to, and I'll tell you all of them. So I ended up going to North Carolina State University. And so I applied to NC State. I applied to University of Pittsburgh, Georgetown University, um, University of Chapel Hill, uh, excuse me, UNC Chapel Hill. That was a slip of the tongue. UNC Chapel Hill, University of North Carolina, and University of Maryland. No, excuse me, not University of Maryland. Um, University of Michigan. There we go. I went to University of Maryland College Park for undergrad. So across those five schools, UNC Chapel Hill, NC State, Georgetown University, University of Pittsburgh, uh, University of Michigan, I looked at the CVs of my own professors, the people who I was asking for recommendations from, and I looked to see if they had any connections to any of those universities in any capacity. Like did they speak at a conference at this university? Did they by chance go to this university? Did they go? Did you do undergrad at this university or grad school at this university? Did they know someone who went to this university or currently is a professor at this university? I was looking for every network connection possible with the stack of schools and my potential recommendation writers. And I asked those specific professors about their specific connection, like to go deeper into the connection. We would talk about um, my applications and what was going on and what I was looking to do. So I remember one of my professors, one of my sociology professors, she actually, I'm trying to remember what she did. She had some specific connection to University of Chapel Hill, University UNC Chapel Hill. I don't know why I keep saying that. She had a specific connection to UNC Chapel Hill, and that was such a dope discovery, a very dope moment. And then for another one of my recommendation writers, um, my my professor was in the same what's it called, like the same field, the same relative field, and his recommendation actually showed up in a conversation with one of the other professors at NC State, the school that I actually ended up going to. So I'll get into that story. But the people that you choose to write your recommendations holds more weight than you may realize. So I'll give you a very specific example. So, did sociology in undergrad at University of Maryland College Park. Towards the uh, in my senior year, I took a linguistics course. It was like a psycholinguistics course, and it was my first linguistics course. It was amazing. I really enjoyed it. My professor, uh, he was a giant in the field of linguistics, and he wrote one of my recommendations. He was also my faculty advisor as a McNair scholar. So I worked with him and two of his graduate students, two of his PhD students, for my McNair uh, project. At any rate, fast forward to my second year. This is my second year of grad school, and I'm actually driving to do some interviews for a research project with uh, one of the faculty members from the English department at NC State. So I was a research assistant for the English department, at the same time as being a sociology PhD student at NC State. So I'm in the car. This is me and Dr. Faculty member, right? She and I are driving. I'm in the passenger seat. She's in the driver's seat. We're going. And we were talking about my application. I forget how the conversation came up, but I asked her something about, yeah, so what was it like, bringing in the new cohort of students, and did you ever see my application? I was curious. And she said, yeah, actually. And when I saw you had a recommendation from Dr. So and so at University of Maryland, she was like, oh yeah, we got to bring him in. Like, my recommendation from my um, faculty member at UMD, like, sealed the deal in her brain. So that's how strong a solid recommendation can be. That's how strong the impact of your network can influence people's decision. So I saw firsthand, like, just how powerful and how important it is to get strong uh, recommendations written on your behalf for your graduate school application process. And that still sits with me. So when you're considering what it means to get recommendations for your graduate school applications, take it very seriously. Really get specific and intentional about the preparation process. Getting all of your stuff organized, getting all the information that you need to successfully apply. And then once you're organized and ready to go, it'll be so much easier to get other people involved in that process so that it is as fluid as possible. So I'm pretty sure I still have access to the preparation packet. If you're actually interested in it, I can send it along. Ideally, I do have access to it. And even if I don't have access to it, I'm still open to even talking through stuff that I had in the packet. Even if I don't have the exact document still, um, I can figure out how to find it, because I know I sent it to other people when I was going through grad school, and like I was sending it to other I was sending it to other undergrad students with whom I was applying to grad schools at the same time. And then also to my mentees in grad school. When I was a grad student, I was mentoring undergrads through their graduate application processes. So if I could reach out to them and see, like, do you still have that document that I sent you the other day, 3 years, 5 years, 6 years ago? Maybe. But getting strong recommendations is a game changer. I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you're thinking about applying to grad school, if you're in the throes of, preparing to apply for graduate school, if you are literally waiting for the decisions to come back from your applications, if you're in your first semester of grad school and you're navigating things for the first time, I would love to hear your thoughts. Love to have a nice discourse about specifically applying to grad school, because that's just one that is one major chapter of my life, and it's really intriguing to connect with other people navigating that same uh, chapter, that same piece of the puzzle that we call life. So yeah, love to hear your thoughts. Thanks for watching.